This is a recap of the American film Aeon Flux 2005, an action, adventure, and sci-fi film that stars Charlize Theron. A deadly virus wiped out 99% of humanity in 2011. A person named Trevor Goodchild finds a cure for the virus and saves 1% of the human population. The remaining 1% consists of 5 million surviving people who now live in a city called Bregna. The premise of the movie is set in 2415. 404 years after the pandemic, the city of Bregna has changed completely. At first glance, it looks like a perfect romantic city with happy people and a better quality of life. Massive concrete walls surround the circular city to stop people from going outside the premises and potentially catching the virus. Bregna is technologically advanced and has a gigantic spaceship-like object levitating over the city. The Goodchild dynasty has been ruling the city for over 100 years. However, the government hides a secret from its people. Many people vanish mysteriously and frequently, and no one knows why. Even weirder is that the whole population gets strange nightmares, and the government requests it to be treated. Everyone suspects that the government is involved in the disappearances, but no one is brave enough to stand against the Goodchilds, except for a group of people called the Monicans. Monica is an underground rebel organization that aims to get the answers to the frequent disappearance and fight against the absolute rule of the Goodchilds. The protagonist of the movie, Aeon Flux, is a highly skilled assassin and a warrior who works secretly with the Monicans. At the movie's beginning, we see her walking through the beautiful city's streets. She meets a man at a junction and the two kiss. We know the man transfers a pill from his mouth to hers as they kiss. When the two separate and go their own way, Aeon takes the ill. It is an advanced telepathic technology used by the Monicans to communicate with each other. By taking the pill, Aeon can talk to the leader of the Monicans named Handler. She provides her with a new mission, to sabotage the Goodchild's central surveillance facility. Later, we see Aeon walk through a busy street in the city. An older man shows people a picture of his daughter, asking if someone has seen her. Aeon meets her younger sister Una, and the two plan to meet for dinner that night. After meeting with Una, she goes to the Goodchild's headquarters and swiftly kills the 3 guards outside. She goes further in and defeats the other guards too. They do not match Aeon's fighting and spying skills. She jumps inside through the roof and sees the life of every person in the city being watched through some technology. Aeon then plants a bug in the place and completes her mission successfully. That night, Aeon is going to Una's apartment, but she sees 2 men carrying her body away on her way. She is shocked and freezes in her tracks. Some guards bring Una's boyfriends behind her. He looks at Aeon and tells her that Una wasn't a Monican, suggesting she was killed for being misunderstood as a Monican. Aeon cannot stop thinking about her sister at night. She pledges to take revenge on the people who got her killed. A microphone embedded permanently in her ear tells her that Handler wants to see her. She uses telepathic technology to meet the leader. She hands her a new mission, the most important mission they have had yet. It is to kill the man who made the cure and chairman of the Goodchild's rule, Trevor Goodchild. Aeon accepts the mission delightedly because she is getting a chance to kill the murderer of her sister. Handler blows her pollen from a flower and embeds Aeon with the mission's plan. Chandra, Aeon's friend and a member of Monica, will help her cross the border, which is the first step of the task. The following day, Aeon and Sathandra start the plan. They run through the restricted premises of the Goodchild's residence and are shot by several weapons planted on the trees. Sandra helps Aeon get through the traps, leaves her to complete the rest of the mission alone, and waits outside for her. Inside the massive residence, we see Trevor Goodchild talk to his brother and a co-member of their government, Oren Goodchild. The two talk about a system their world is working on. Trevor is actively trying to better the said system because it harms the people, but Oren is in favor of continuing the current system even though it hurts the people. Sometime later, Aeon finds Trevor in an auditorium practicing a speech. She comes in front of him and points her gun at him. However, before she can pull the trigger, Trevor calls her Catherine. Aeon gets a flashback of 2 people kissing and cannot seem to shoot him. Someone from behind her knocks her unconscious. When she opens her eyes, she is in a cell. One of the walls becomes transparent, revealing Trevor standing on the other side. Eon asks him about calling her Catherine earlier, but Trevor doesn't tell her why he did. He claims it is good to see her again and leaves. A part on the wall reverses, offering her food and water, but Eon suspects that the water is spiked by looking through her microscope embedded in her eyes. She takes a sample of it with her. She then calls on some marbles that she had spread throughout the facility. The marbles explode, creating an opening through which Eon runs away. Then we see Oren and other members of the government, who aren't fond of Trevor's idea, talk about Eon's escape. Oren dismisses them all, but later meets Trevor's secretary, Inari. As they talk, we get to know that Oren was the one who manipulated the Monachans into wanting to kill Trevor. He wants his brother dead and wants to do it discreetly, so his death won't track back to him. Eon then goes to see Una's boyfriend, who tells her that the liquid she was given has a message that will be said to her when she drinks it. Eon then drinks the juice, and Trevor talks to her in her head. He asks her why she didn't kill him earlier when she had a chance, and then he calls her to a place. Eon rushes to greet him. She asks him for an answer to all this, but he questions her why she is here, wanting her to remember the truth herself. In the heat of the moment, the two kiss. After a while, Eon wakes up naked beside Trevor and is confused. She doesn't know what took over her earlier. She strangles him and knocks him out. Eon then finds a secret door leading to a library. An armor suddenly latches to her and brings her to Trevor's lab. She sees that he has been performing some experiments. But just then, she is confronted by Trevor's security and assistant, Freya. Freya knows her as the assassin sent to kill her boss, so she attacks her. The women get into an intense fight, both equally skilled. In the end, Eon manages to escape through a secret opening. When Trevor comes back to consciousness, Freya tells him she ran, and he asks her to bring Eon back alive. Oren and the other officials see that Trevor and Freya have slept together. They believe that Trevor has betrayed their trust by welcoming a member of the Monachan, so they want him to dethrone him altogether. She returns to meet Sathandra and tells her she has aborted the mission. They get into an argument, after which Eon ties Sathandra and runs away. She sees the floating structure in the sky through which the Goodchilds keep an eye on the citizens. She climbs up to reach it. Inside, she sees a strange man controlling a peculiar panel. The man sees Eon and welcomes her back. He points towards a direction and disappears, leaving a confused Eon to do whatever she likes. She goes to the panel and realizes the device has information about everyone in the city, so she searches for her sister's name. As it turns out, Una has been reborn as Sasha Pro. Eon is shocked. She gets her address and runs to see her sister. Meanwhile, Sathandra informs Handler about Eon's betrayal. Handler assigns more members of the Monachans to eliminate Eon. Trevor reaches the flying object and meets the man who happens to be the ship's keeper. After knowing she went to see her sister, Trevor runs there too. Eon holds her baby sister with teary eyes when Trevor reaches there. He finally reveals to her the truth about Bregna. When the virus first spread 400 years ago, Trevor and a group of scientists developed the cure and saved some of the worlds. But the treatment had a terrible side effect. It made all the women infertile. So, humans only had that one generation to live. However, Trevor saved them when his cloning experiment was successful. He cloned the DNA of every person alive and gave them a rebirth. Every person who has been born for the past 400 years is a clone of the ones who were cured. That is why people have strange dreams. Dreams are memories of their past lives. That is also the reason the population of the place has remained 5 million for all these centuries. When a person dies in the city, the ship's keeper recycles their DNA and assigns it to someone else. The citizens are unknown to this and think they have a natural pregnancy, but in reality, the keeper of the floating ship finds a suitable couple to impregnate and induce the woman with a chemical pregnancy. When they visit the doctor to see if they are pregnant, the cloned embryo is planted on her. That way, she gives birth to a clone of someone who had recently died. For the past 7 generations, Trevor and Oren have cloned themselves and taught their younger versions everything they need to know. Then Trevor also tells Eon that this method is not permanent, and he has been looking for a way to reinduce natural pregnancy for all these years. It turns out, Una was subject to Trevor's experiment who had successfully been pregnant naturally, but Oren killed her because he wanted the cloning process to go on forever so he could could live forever. He wants to be immortal. As Eon looks at her sister, the place is attacked by Oren's men. But with Eon's fighting skills, she protects Trevor, and the two manage to run away from the place while being pursued by the men. They reach a train station and escape by boarding a train. However, Trevor has been shot. Eon quickly takes him to a nearby, quiet area and takes the bullets out of his body. She peels off her skin and puts it on his, healing his wounds. Trevor then claims they have to go to his lab to collect his files on the experiment he performed on Una so that he could induce natural pregnancy again. Eon asks him about their relationship, and Trevor claims that she was Catherine, his wife, 400 years ago. Oren has told Trevor that she died because of the virus, but her DNA clone was protected. Eon is beyond surprised, but they do not have much time to chat. When the two reach his lab, they see Freya dead, and all his reports have been burned. Trevor wants to run away from the city, but Eon insists on doing one last task before leaving. She wants to destroy the floating ship because she believes that cloning is playing with nature. Humans are supposed to die, and she doesn't want that to change anymore. But before she can shoot the ship down, Oren and his men surround the two. At the same time, Sathandra and her American team climb to a high point to assassinate Eon. Oren then reveals to Trevor that more and more women started getting pregnant, not because of Trevor's experiment, but because they were healing from the cure's side effects. So, he killed them all, including Una. That is why the citizens have been disappearing mysteriously. He now plans to kill both of them and continue the world of cloning. As they talk, Eon notices Chandra is far away. She uses telepathy technology to convince her to help them. Sathandra and her group begin to shoot at the guards to save Trevor and Eon. During the shootout, Oren is injured. Sathandra's group manages to kill most of Oren's guards. However, an injured Oren shoots Sathandra and drops her off the height, killing her. In the end, Trevor and Oren come face to face. Eon shoots Oren dead when he points his gun at Trevor. Eon then gets on the ship and explodes it, destroying the DNA clones stored in it. The ship goes flying and lands harshly on the city's perimeter wall. The people see the outside world for the first time. It seems fertile and full of vegetation, a land that can be inhabitable. The movie ends as we see a glance of Eon and Trevor's life was our 100 years ago.